Hey guys, Mr. Jalapeno here with another episode of The Bondo Chronicles. On today's project, I'm going to show you how I repaired this damage on the trim near the garage door. Another option would be to just replace the trim, but that's going to be a lot more time and obviously more money. So first thing you're going to want to do is get your utility blade and cut off any loose pieces that might be around the damaged area. You're not going to want any loose pieces just because the Bondo is not going to adhere correctly. And then here I'm just taping off the area, that way I don't get Bondo everywhere. And here we go, the star of the show, Mr. Bondo. You're going to want to get something to mix the Bondo in. I'm using cardboard here, but I have heard people tell me to use smooth tile. I just like to use the cardboard because I don't have to clean it, I just throw it out. And here's probably the biggest reason why I use Bondo, because once I apply a little bit of that cream hardener, this stuff is ready to sand in 15 minutes. Just make sure you mix that cream hardener with the Bondo really good. And this way I can apply multiple coats in a short amount of time without having to wait hours and hours for it to dry. Look, I just put one coat, I let that dry for a little bit. This is the second coat here. I let that dry for a little bit. I think I ended up doing like 3 to 4 coats. And then look, I'm using the bottom of the 6-inch putty knife to make sure everything's nice and square. Working with this all-purpose Bondo is super messy, so I recommend you use latex gloves. And so once it hardens up, I try to sand in between coats, that way everything's nice and smooth. I'm going to be using 80 grit sanding paper. If the trim was smooth, I would use 220, but since it's a little rough looking, I'm going to use this 80 grit. What I'm trying to do here is make sure it looks like a nice little corner, you know, so it doesn't look patched up. A lot of times you might add a little bit too much product and it's going to look bumpy. So just make sure you sand everything nice and flat, and it's going to end up looking very professional. And now that the easy part is complete, the hard part is finding the paint. The homeowners had an empty can of the original paint, so I just went to Sherwin-Williams. Oh, and before I went to Sherwin-Williams, I caulked that corner right there. That way you can't see that crack. Super simple. It actually took me more time to go get the paint than to actually patch it up with the Bondo. And it also always helps when the homeowner knows exactly what paint they use to paint their house. But I always let them know that even if they have some extra paint for the exterior, sometimes it's not going to match 100% just because, you know, sometimes the sun beats it down, the weather. So it's not always going to match 100%. Luckily here, the homeowners painted about 2 months ago, so the paint still matches pretty good. And then look, I try to make some designs on the wood, that way it doesn't look super flat. And so let me know in the comments, would you have replaced the piece of trim or would you have just patched it up? Remember, you could get all the tools or materials in the link in my bio in my Amazon storefront. But that's pretty much it. Jalapeno Solutions. Boom!